G'day mate, and welcome to a tutorial video on the Riftbreaker with me, Jedi. Today we're going to be covering power. Why power? Because power is probably the most important thing. Like, resources are fine and all good, but if you don't have power, nothing runs. So we're going to be starting off with power first. This is going to be a serious tutorial video, so if you're interested in seeing more tips, tricks and help in the Riftbreaker, by all means click that subscribe button. But first off, let's get into the basics. Power storage. So we have good old energy storage, level 1, level 2, level 3, and we can see level 1, 10k. It's a little bit of power. Level 2, twice as much, 20k. Level 3, 40k. So power is one of those things you're going to want to upgrade. It pretty much stands that way with everything when it comes to power. Wind turbines, we're going to assume you're on a planet that has 100% wind and 100% solar. There are certain parts and certain rift gates where you get obviously a big bump to wind energy or a big bump to solar. In those sorts of planets, you might want to consider using more of one than the other, but on the base level, we have a standard wind turbine at 12 energy per second, a level 2 at 24, and a level 3 at 48. So again, it just doubles every single time. Then we have solar. Solar is a little bit different because it only runs during the daytime, and again, we have 20, 40, and then 80. So again, one we're going to want to upgrade as soon as possible. Next one we're going to have is plant biomass power plant. Now, plant biomass, a little bit different. You're going to pick plant biomass up all the time when you're accidentally blowing things up by clicking the wrong button. All the times we see these little green things on the ground, these are all plant biomass. You're going to be picking up plant biomass all the time. So I really recommend that you either put down a couple of these to burn off the plant biomass, because you might as well, or when you go to a new outpost, you need to get that first power up and running, go with the plant biomass burners, because they actually make a ridiculous amount of power for very few resources used. Plant biomass level 1, 100 energy, 1 biomass. Level 2, 150 for 1 biomass, and a level 3, 200 energy per second for 1 biomass. As you can see on the right hand side, I have 17,500 plant biomass. I have a decent amount. This is a test map. I haven't been playing that long. My single player campaign, I think I've got 150,000 plant biomass, because you just don't use that much of it. So really recommend you look at these either in your main base just to chew up some of the plant biomass you're going to just gather by dealing with attacks, or wait till you go to a new outpost, build a ton of these to get your infrastructure up and running, and then move over to different alternate times of power. The other one is the animal biomass. Pretty much same story, except way more energy. We use 1 animal biomass for 200 energy, 300 energy, or 400 energy for 1, 2, and 3. Again, as you can see, I've only got 200 here, but I haven't dealt with any of the critters on the map. I only cleared out a little bit of the map just to create our starting area. Everything else I've ignored, so these are actually really good as well. Brand new planets, whack down a couple of these, get your infrastructure up and running. Once it's up and running, move on to the next power plant type, which normally be geothermal, but we're going to cover geothermal in just a minute. I want to look at the gas power plant, because the gas power plant actually really underrated. Okay, I ignored these for a large portion of my actual playthrough, and then realized that they're a little bit OP. So we have level 1 needs 50 flammable gas and makes 500 energy. Level 2, same 50 flammable gas, but then we're up to 750 energy. Level 3, 1000 energy. How do you get flammable gas, you ask? We got 2 choices. You can either use a gas filtering plant from sludge. Okay, requires you have sludge. Sludge is not available everywhere, but those areas that it are can really benefit you. So we have 100 sludge per second in for 25 flammable gas for level 1, 100 in for 50 for level 2, and then 100 in for 75 for level 3, which means for just flammable gas for this particular setup, early game you're going to need level 1, so you're going to need 2 of the gas filtering plants for every 1 gas power plant. So it's 2 to 1. When you get to level 2, it's 1 to 1. Life's so much easier. When you get to level 3, it's actually 2 filtering plants for 3 power plants, which means you're going to be putting down 2 of these, consuming 200 sludge per second and producing 150 gas per second. 150 gas per second turns into 3,000 power per second. you can see how ridiculous the gas power plants are. On top of that, if you don't have sludge, you can actually make it from water. And this is a whole different thing. There are lots of planets that just don't have sludge. They normally have mud, which you can convert into water. This uses 10 water per second and 1 plant biomass. So you know that plant biomass we just spoke about that you have no use for? Turns out you turn that into flammable gas. It makes 25 flammable gas per second. This building does not have an upgrade, unfortunately, so we can't take this up to another level. So it means you're going to need probably a few of them, but they only need 10 water per second. So off a standard water pipe, normally doing about 100, you can put potentially 10 of these, making 250 flammable gas per second. Level 3, that's like 5,000 power per second. It adds up real quick. Okay, with out of the way, let's talk about nuclear power. Nuclear power is great power. Again, 50 water per second for 1, 2, or 3. They all need 4 uranium per second. So you're going to have to make sure you have some sort of infrastructure, some sort of constant supply of uranium coming in. And level 1, 1500 power per second. Level 2, 2250 power per second. And level 3, 3000 power per second. Very, very impressive. Next one's Magma. Magma only obviously applies to the biomes that happen to have the magma deposits, but we have level 1, 500 energy per second, level 2, 750, level 3, 1000. I think the real big thing with the magma power plant is it's purely easy to set up, okay? Liquid pump, it's not called a water pump, it's called a liquid pump. Yes, liquid pump, pipe, plug it into a power plant, done, power's sorted. It makes up for its lack of power with its complete improvement in ease. The next one is the fusion power plant. Now this is super late game. These are the big boys. This is when you're just sick of dealing with power, you just want to dump down a couple of these and ignore the problem. They take in 100 water per second or 50 supercoolant per second. Water, supercoolant, up to you. Either at the late game is pretty easy to get. They're also going to have a byproduct of plasma. Plasma we can use for a couple of different products, including turning supercharged plasma and loading into some very big artillery cannons. Level 1, 3.5 power per second. That's impressive. Level 2, 5,000 per second. Level 3, 7,000 power per second. It's not bad. It's really not bad. Okay, last one we needed to cover very quickly is the Geothermal Power Plant. Geothermal Power Plant makes 200 energy per second, 100 mud per second. Now, I do recommend early game you go over and grab these as fast as possible. One, because generally up until this point you've been dealing with solar and wind, so to get 200 power per second, you need to put down a number of wind turbines or a number of solar panels with some power storage to get you through the night cycle. So I really recommend you look at these as soon as possible. But when we get over to level 2, we go from 200 energy per second, 100 mud, up to 400 energy, so twice the amount, with 150 mud per second, so a little bit more mud. And then finally, if we go up to a level 3, we go up to 800 power per second, and then 200 mud per second. Unfortunately, by any time you can afford a geothermal level 3 requiring some titanium, you're probably looking at nuclear power plants and other things instead, so it's a little bit of a moot point. But the mud is the important thing. What I want to do is I want to show you guys something I normally set up as soon as I can on any outpost. Alright, let's talk about something I like to set up on every single planet I can, okay? It's a geothermal vent. Geothermal vent, I want to get one of these up and running on every single new outpost. Now, the reason I want to do this is they provide a good amount of power to start with, okay? If we check these out, they're going to provide 200 energy per second, but more importantly, they're going to provide 100 mud per second. And the reason I want the mud is to get some bonus power. And we're going to cover this fairly briefly, but one thing I do want to point out right now, I'm on a local power grid. It says local up here, which means where I'm standing is not connected back to the HQ. So any power I'm making here is just the power I'm making in this small power grid, which has been disconnected from everything else. So our 200 power we're making from our geothermal power plant and the 100 mud, we're bringing out 100 mud, we're running it into a water filtration plant. Now it's just level 1, we're just talking about level 1 tech here. Our level 1 water filtration plant is turning our 100 mud into just 50 water because it's a level 1, it's not terribly efficient. But that's okay. With our 50 water that we're pumping into that pipe, we're running into the biocomposters, okay? They're going to use that 10 water per second and 10 power per second, along with 1 plant biomass, to give us 25 flammable gas. Now, you might be looking, hang on, I've made 200 power. I'm going to lose 50 of it in the water filtration plant, plus I'm going to use 10 times 5, which is another 50 power. So I'm actually going to lose half my power just turning to flammable gas, which sounds not great. But each one of these is producing 25 flammable gas per second, which means a total of 125. And then remember those gas power plants? 2 of those level 1 produce 2 of those at level 1 use 100 flammable gas per second and produce 500 power per second. So I'm actually making 1100 power per second, being 200 made in the geothermal power plant, 100 of which I'm spending, leaving me 100 left over, plus 2 lots of 500. So I'm making 1100 power per second from 1 geothermal power plant. And as you can see, infrastructure and space-wise, it's not terribly large. Now, after doing all that, I actually am making 150 flammable gas per second, but I'm only consuming 125. But what I've actually done is I've put in a little bit of a storage tank, which is filled up to the brim, because I don't quite have enough water extra left over to run, or I don't have enough water to run enough biocomposters to get enough to run an extra gas power plant. But I can turn this on whilst I have some storage, burn up some of that storage to get a bit of a power boost. And as you can see, that brings me up to 1600 power per second. Now, the whole reason I've done this is it means that, you know, those times when you suddenly run out of power, because it happens to all of us. We get busy doing other things, we're building some part of the base, we're ignoring our power needs, and then suddenly Ashley or Mr. Riggs pops over the radio and says, "Oop, power's bad." You suddenly go, "Oh shit, I need to go fix that again." So you can pop over here really, really quickly, flick a button, and get an extra 500 power per second. It is limited power, but it should be enough that you can go fix whatever's broken, fix up that problem, and get the power restored. Now, this is a level 1 setup, okay? Got to remember that. This is level 1. Now, at level 3, because I should really talk about a level 3 version as well. Level 3. Level 3, our geothermal power plant. Rather than producing 200 energy and 100 mud, actually produces 800 power and 200 mud. Okay, so we get twice the amount of mud out. Our water filtration plants at level 3 consume 100 mud. They always consume 100 mud, but they actually produce 100 water. So we're going to bring in 200 mud. We're going to put in 2 water filtration plants, and we're actually going to produce 200 mud back out. 200 water back out. At 200 water, we're going to be running into the biocomposters. Now, the biocomposters don't have an upgrade, so it means we need to build 4 times as many of them. We need to build 20 of them, okay? 20 of them is going to consume 200 water. It's also going to consume 20 plant biomass per second. It's also going to give us 500 gas per second. Okay. Then we go into our gas power plants. We have 500 gas per second. They use 50 each. That makes the math really simple. We can build 10 of them. But 10 of them at level 4 produce 1,000 power each. 10 of them at level 3 produce 1,000 power each. Which does mean that we have 10,000 power plus whatever the geothermal power plant which is producing, which is 800 minus what we spent on infrastructure, which means we get 10,400 power out for the cost of, get this, 20 plant biomass per second. 10,000 power for 20 plant biomass per second. It's pretty efficient. Pretty efficient. This is something I try and build on every single planet, every single outpost. Start off with a level 1, and then if my power requirements improve and increase, then go to level 2, level 3. Anyway, with all that said, this is where I'm going to be ending this quick power little tutorial. If you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, I'd really appreciate if you click the like button, along with sharing it with your friends. Share it on Discord, share it on Reddit. Tell your friend who just thought about picking up the game, send them a DM on Steam. Share it with everybody. Very, very much appreciate it. At the same time, like the video if you want to see more Riftbreaker tutorial videos like this, by all means click the subscribe button. This is the first in a series. We're covering power first. I think next up we need to talk about unlimited resources, because let's be honest, unlimited resources sounds like a great thing. Anyway, with all that said, I'm going to call this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. Alright, bye.